Hello and welcome back to A Few Bits of News. I'm TB Sliver, and in this smaller version of the show, we focus on one thing, in which we call A Few Bytes of News. Before we go into the actual event, it's worth covering the fact that Square Enix attempted to do good for content creators this year by creating a second version of the event with copyright-free music. In part it worked. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy featured songs like Bad Reputation by Joan Jett and I Need a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, which were replaced by appropriate songs to fit the situation and themes of the game. Others not so much. Other games had their music completely stripped from their content, which led to awkward talking and silent moments during the content. To be fair, it didn't ruin the show, and at least Square Enix were trying to solve a hard situation right now. First up, and taking up most of the 45-minute presentation, was, as mentioned before, Eidos Montreal game, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a single-player story in which you play just self-proclaimed team leader Star-Lord,
Who?
aka Peter Quill, whereas the other team members will be controlled by AI. However, that said, the rest of the team you can actually command in combat to perform moves, to build combo meters, to pull off super attacks, turning the game into more of a 3D brawler than just straight up cover shooter, considering Peter's weapons of choice. The major thing that has Kremlik squeaking with delight is the fact that Dan Abnett is on board with this game. For those of you not in the know about who he is, Dan is the creator of this version of the team in the comics, this being the second team to use the name Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics, and went on to write many of that team's adventures. James Gunn himself consulted with Dan in the creation of the movie adaptations of the characters, so the MCU versions are about as close to Dan's original vision as you'd expect. Knowing all that, you'll see why the characters seem so close to their portrayals on screen. Thus, as you'd expect, the banter is there in large volumes, in which Peter can actually interject and change the conversation and plot through dialogue options the player can select. For those only familiar with the MCU films, you know the soundtrack was key in those. Same with this game. The devs are quite happy to claim Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy wouldn't be a complete game without a killer soundtrack to rock out to. And it's stuffed with 80s hits. For example, as mentioned before, Bad Reputation is used as a super move to boost the morale of the team to pull off a series of moves. One last thing of note is the team took time to note this is an MTX free product, outside of pre-order bonuses and digital deluxe content of course. Whereas most assume this is a reaction to the Avengers game's negative feedback of MTX, it's worth pointing out that Jason Schreier reported on this game's existence during the shelving of the Deus Ex IP some time ago, and this was always the intention of the game's content direction. That's good to hear it's not a last-minute change, like Avengers seemed to be. Guardians of the Galaxy is due 26th October on PC, PlayStation and Xbox platforms. Next up was a remaster of a remaster, as the first 6 Final Fantasy games on mobile and Steam are getting a pixel remaster version. If these are standalone or add-ons to the existing games, we aren't sure, as little information was given. However, Krem is most certain this is a response to the chibi character design feedback over the original mobile ports. Continuing on the mobile front, War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, it's a word soup, is having a month-long crossover with the original Final Fantasy. At time of publishing, this video is going on right now. Mobile exclusive RPG Nier Reincarnation was shown in more detail, but still no more information on date, yet you can pre-register for it. Finally, Hitman Sniper: The Shadows was revealed. This mobile story seems to allude to the continuation of the ending of the recently released Hitman 3, due out later this year. Life is Strange True Colors got another showing alongside Life is Strange Remastered Collection, which showed off the differences between the versions. Also, Marvel's Avengers shows a little more story to the upcoming content drops, although nothing really solid as it was more canned lines to gameplay. And the War for Wakanda expansion, which still has no date. Platinum Games' Babylon's Fall was shown after a 2-year absence. Their latest trailer was more colourful than the last in 2019. Other than the dev's trademark combat style, nothing much else was shown, other than the game is now coming to PlayStation 5, alongside PlayStation 4 and PC, and it's now considered a live service. If that kills the game outright, or allows the game to thrive, only time will tell. The final major reveal was the rumoured Final Fantasy Dark Souls game by Neo developers Team Ninja. From what little gameplay we got from it, it's not really that far off from that, and it seems very brutal. The game itself is named Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. Outside the now much memed "Gotta Kill Chaos" lines that were spouted again and again, the plot itself seems to be based around the original Final Fantasy game, as Garland, that game's antagonist, is featured, except our heroes are not the original Warriors of Light, nor his party, which may answer the first half of the game's name. This game is due 2022 on PlayStation, Xbox and PC. And that finishes our roundup of the Square Enix showcase. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell icon if you'd like to get notified of future videos, as we cover more of the E3 and Summer Game Fest season announcements.